Hey there, my name's Curtis Lucas, and you're watching Empire Building. So, how's everybody doing out there? Kind of an interesting day. Obviously, today caught everybody, including myself, off guard. And I wish I could say that this kind of activity is unprecedented, but really it isn't. It's unexpected, but it's not unprecedented. At least for a few days, these markets can defy logic. They can go in the opposite direction based off every single metric that's out there. But I think that the direct listing of Coinbase did have a tumultuous effect on these cryptocurrency markets as a whole. I'm not really one that likes to delve into the conspiracy theories, but I'm also not naive enough to believe that this manipulation is not happening. But I'm not going to sit here and blame all of my problems on some other external force just because the markets didn't go my way. Because besides, manipulation by any actor can only go so far. Nobody can hold back the momentum that these markets have for extended periods of time. And every indicator that I've seen, especially when looking at Bitcoin, because that tends to be what I focus on. I don't care what the individual charts of each individual mining company looks like. My only focus is on Bitcoin. And Bitcoin's chart looks beautiful. There was a bit of a sell-off today, but honestly, was not even all that significant. This here is the range that we are trading at in yesterday. We had a new breakout to new all-time highs, and then we spent the day sort of selling off. We went a little lower than we were yesterday, but really not by much. The overall drop today from the yesterday's trading range where we had closed at was only 3%. Yet these markets acted like it was all coming to an end. But this is why what I'm saying is it doesn't reflect reality. And some of the external forces at play here to do with the Coinbase IPO clearly had an impact. But what does it mean for the long term? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. The reality that we're dealing with here is we came back and retested the old former all-time high that we formed about a month ago. Zooming out, you can see where that all-time high was originally formed. We consolidated through this ascending triangle. We broke out. We've come back. We've retested support, and we've bounced. This is exactly what a trader wants to see. This is a textbook breakout. So provided we regain control and this price continues to rise, there is nothing scary about this. If we were to eventually break back down through this line, then that might be something that we could be concerned about if we actually stayed down there. But the reality is we can actually go back and see what else is happening in this market, particularly with Ethereum. Ethereum actually just recently broke out and made a new all-time high. This is not the signal of a market that's going to fall. I'm not saying that we've bottomed and it's all clear skies from here. We've suffered a bit of a loss. I don't necessarily know what's going to happen next. The aftermarket hours look okay. I believe Mars up maybe 3.5%. Riot's up about 3%. We can take a quick look at that now, actually. Riot is up 2.7% and Marathon up 3.5%. Yeah. Not a significant climb, but I do think that people are a little bit more reserved considering the beatdown we just suffered. You have to pardon the barking dogs and the kids playing in the background. Got to get these videos done. Here we can see Coinbase closed at about $328, giving it a valuation at $85.8 billion. Not bad, actually. But obviously for a first trading day, it's kind of a disappointment, considering we opened at 381 approximately. The overall drop throughout the trading day was a max of 18.5%, closing the day out at a drop of about 14%. Coincidentally, about the same amount that the major Bitcoin mining stocks fell. So in this scenario, there were no winners. It was just an all-around bad day. And yeah, anyone that's wondering, I did exit about half my position for those options calls. I had a good read over a lot of the comments, people sharing their ideas, their condolences, their well wishes, and some are just outright laughing. The reality is, I've said it many times, what I'm sharing here isn't investment advice. I'm nobody's guru here. Some of it is for entertainment, but most of it is just to document my own journey. The reality is I have a high tolerance for risk, much higher than most people out there. But along with that tolerance, or that tolerance is seeded from, is the fact that I have a very high conviction level for this technology. I'm able to look much further out, and I understand myself well enough that I know I need to have a good solid base, but I'm also prone to take risky bets. So with a percentage of that overall portfolio, I feel comfortable taking those riskier bets for the chance that it might play out. But these short-term call options, I'm beginning to realize that as I'm learning here, as I've made it very clear, I've never traded these before the last few months. And it's been quite a rocky introduction to this, as I'm sure it probably is with most people. So I've taken my licks, I've learned some lessons. I am ready to stop it with these short-term, like weekly call options, and stick to the longer leaps, something like a month, 2 months. I still have June contracts expiring June 18th with a strike price of $45. I didn't expect to ever see us actually back down to those levels like we saw today. This is crazy. I mean, the reality is, when you actually consider the fact that Mara, on the daily chart, the first time we reached the prices we're at today, that was actually February 16th. The price of Bitcoin on February 16th was actually approximately $49,000. We're $14,000 higher than that today, yet the stock is trading at the same price. Not only that, Marathon has a lot more miners installed today than they did then. And the Bitcoin they have on their balance sheet is worth $13,000 more, or $14,000 more than it did back then. I don't know what that tells everybody else, but it tells me one very clear message. This is an opportunity. And I'm highlighting Mara, but I don't care. I mean, all the stocks suffered equally. We're all in this together. I've said this many times. But when an event like this happens, the best thing you can do is nothing at all. Unless you were planning on selling today, what does it matter if the stock fell? All that matters is what is the price when you choose to sell. Did you choose to sell today? You need to maybe ask yourself what your motivating rationale was. What were you expecting to happen? And more importantly, why did you buy it in the first place? But it seems pretty clear to me that Bitcoin is setting itself up perfectly. Ethereum is at all-time highs. It just formed new highs like an hour ago. The trend is pretty darn clear. But that doesn't mean that there couldn't be further disruptions in this process. But unless you were planning on selling this week, which in my case I was for my options, and those have been destroyed. But I'm okay with this. Those were risks I was willing to take, and lessons I guess I needed to learn. Obviously for me, it's a little bit easier to take those risks since I know that all the money in my portfolio at this point is money that had been earned by investing in these stocks. I got in very early, but money is still money. And as they say, it's not about how much you make, it's about how much you keep. So I'm definitely going to work on keeping more of this rather than just giving it away. But as far as what to expect next, I can't really say with any certainty. Nobody can. But the trend is intact. And there's very little here that would actually cause me to get scared. So I'm having a really hard time being scared. Obviously, if I had some more money sitting around that I could afford to tie up for an extended period of time, I'd be jumping all over this. And anyone that's been waiting for their moment to jump in, I think you just saw it. Because no matter what happens to the price of these stocks, the companies, they haven't changed. In fact, they have changed. They keep installing more miners, and the price of Bitcoin just keeps going up. One interesting thing that I've come to realize is that Bitcoin is accelerating. When we go back to the behavior Bitcoin exhibited prior to the breakout over $20,000, we were following a trend line. If we go back to before Bitcoin broke $20,000, we can see that we're following a trend line. We were following this trend line quite nicely. And then we broke $20,000. And what ended up happening was we accelerated far from that trend line. And then we consolidated and we began following a new trend line, one that I've been tracking for quite some time. But that trend line has a steeper slope than the previous trend line, which you can see is still on the graph. But we have abandoned that trend line. What happens if we repeat this process? What if we abandon this trend line and form a new trend line that's even steeper than the last? And even if we don't, say we maintain this trend line for a period of time longer, where do you think this trend line leads us? By the time we reach, I believe, we are August 1st, that trend line crosses $100,000. I don't think it's going to take until August 1st. I do believe we will abandon this trend line and form a new trend line steeper than the last. And by the end of May, if anyone wants my prediction, I think we'll see $100,000 Bitcoin. But we will be reaching quite frothy levels by that point. So that is when I'd be willing to start de-risking somewhat, trying to protect that balance. But it doesn't make any sense to me at all to be betting against this market or fearing this market when we've just broken out of resistance and we've confirmed support by retesting that old high. And we've seen a clear bounce and a clear line of support once we reach that level. And here we go again. Bitcoin breaking above $63,000 and rising right as we speak. While we're at it, let's go have a quick look at Ethereum. Again, pardon the kids. I can't stop recording, otherwise I'll never get this out. But here we are, Ethereum about to make a new all-time high. It could happen here as I'm talking. But this is what I'm talking about. There's nothing in these charts that indicate to me that there's anything at all to fear. And as I'm speaking, brand new all-time high for Ethereum. I don't know what else to say. If you're afraid or if you panic sold today, you really need to evaluate why you chose to invest in these companies. What is it you were hoping to gain? Were you expecting it to just rise with no trouble whatsoever? Understand your investment thesis. I've done the math. I understand what risk I'm willing to tolerate. And as I mentioned, I have a very high tolerance for risk. This isn't something that's meant for everyone. But as always, hindsight is 20/20. So when we're looking back on this, it's going to seem obvious. But for anyone who wasn't a part of this journey, will not understand how hard it actually is, the level of conviction that it takes to stare down the face of what seems to be some kind of impending doom, like a cloud that gets cast over you, when logic is completely thrown out the window and the price seems to defy all the metrics that we know and understand. This happens, but it shouldn't matter, and it only provides an opportunity for those who are willing to take that chance. And for those who are already in, there shouldn't be any reason to fear, as long as you still hold the same conviction and your investment thesis is still intact. There's nothing further for you to do. So if anybody was worried about me, please don't be. I've had an incredible run with these. It's changed my life. And I believe We're still early here. Things are going to change. Strange things are going to happen. Trying to time these things or predict them is very difficult, more likely impossible. At times like this, when we suffer through these kind of strange events, the fact of the matter is, I'm in this just as much, if not a lot more than most of you. But to come out here and try to cheer everybody up, luckily I have the ability to do that. Sometimes it makes me feel a little like this guy.
Some things in life are bad. They can really make you mad. Other things just make you swear and curse. When you're chewing on life's gristle, don't grumble, give a whistle. And this'll help things turn out for the best. Hey, always look on the bright side of life.
I mean, the fact of the matter is, I'm suffering through this just like everybody else. At times, it's just as frustrating for me. I mean, I don't appreciate losing that kind of money either. But at the very least, I'm sharing my experience with all of you. I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I share all my successes and all my failures. For those that have been following this channel from the early days, you know what I mean. We've been through it all together, and I'm gonna be here till the end. Anyone who wants to join me, come along. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button and hit the like button. I rarely ask people to do that, and I appreciate all those who do. And if you really want to support the channel, consider signing up for Webull. You'll get 2 free stocks while you're at it, and head over to Patreon and join the community there. It really goes a long way to help me keep doing what I'm doing. Well, that's all for this one. Now let's get back to empire building.